Hello, I'm going to teach you how to play the Acts of the Evangelists. This is a game for 2 to 5 players, and in it, we are going to write the texts that are now known as the 4 Christian Gospels. So if we're writing a text, the first thing we need are pages to write our text on, and those are these Codex leaf cards, and we're going to have a display of those. Of course, we need stories to write onto these pages, and these come in the form of these tradition cards, which start the game out around the board, and they look like this on the front side. And of course, we need to interview people to learn the material that we're going to write in our books, and those are these eyewitnesses, the discs that are in each of these cities, and they also have these cards that go along with them over here. So this game lasts for 6 rounds, and in each round, each player gets 1 turn, and on your turn, you're given 3 of these orange action octagons to pay for your actions. Each action has a 1 octagon form that's called a weak action and a 2 octagon form that's called a strong action. And then in addition to that, other players can pay you a follow token to take a weak, or when you use a weak action to do something similar, or if you use a strong action, they can follow you for free. And we're going to talk about what all that looks like. All right, so there are 4 actions, and let's go through what each one does. The first thing is the travel action. You can move 2 spaces, and spaces are the big circles, which are cities, or the small black circles, which we call waypoints. So with a 1 octagon action, you can move 2, or with a 2 octagon action, you can move anywhere. Separate from that, but related to it, is the boat action. This is a free action that doesn't cost an octagon, but if you're in a city with a boat, you can move yourself and that boat 2 spaces. You can only do that once per turn, and the travel action is the same way. You can only do that once per turn as well. Second action is the most important in the game. This is the tradition action. You're going to pick up the cards. I'm in Thessalonica here, so I'm going to take the cards from the Thessalonica area of the board. And you're going to look at them, and you can keep 0 or 1 for 1 octagon, or keep 2 of them for 2 octagons. So let's say I'm going to keep these 2 cards, and you're going to put them onto an open slot on one of the pages in your gospel. Whatever cards you don't keep, you're going to put back, and you're going to leave one of them face up. So other players now have a little information. The follow version of this action is that a person can take the same card, or one of the cards that you took, from the secondary deck. This is a deck that's kept in order here, so a person might look and say, oh, I'm going to keep card 28 and put it into their own gospel. The third action is the interview action. This is where you interview one of the eyewitnesses. So here I'm in Thessalonica. The green eyewitness is here. That's James. So I'm going to take a James card, signifying I've interviewed James and I can't interview him again. And then I'm going to pick up the bag and take a cube out of the bag. It's black. That means he has died. And when I get a black cube, I return it to the bag. Sometimes I might get a white cube. That signifies that that witness is still alive. Well, then I look at my gospel and I count the number of cards, tradition cards, that have circles matching that witness. So here I have 1, 2, and then I'm going to give myself tally marks on the score pad here. For each card I have, I get 3 tally marks if the witness is alive, or 2 if he is deceased. So here I have 2 cards and he's deceased, so I would give myself 1, 2, 3, 4 tally marks. That's the weak version of the action. If I took the 2 octagon strong version, I would get 5 and 3. So in this case, I would get 6 tally marks for interviewing James. The follow version of this has 2 parts to it. First, if someone else has the same witness interview card, they get 2 points for that if they follow me. And then in addition, or separately from that, they count up the number of tradition cards that they have that match James, and they get 1 point for each of those. The last action is called rearrange. This lets me move things around in my gospel. There are 2 ways I can do that. One is to move a page to a different location. Another is to swap the two cards on a single page. It's like I'm flipping the page over. So in this case, maybe I would do that. But you can't ever move a card from one page to another. So the weak version of this action is to do that once. The strong version, 2 octagons, is to do that as much as I like. And the follow version is to take 1 rearrange action. After everybody has had a turn, we advance the marker on the time track, and then any white cubes that are on the board go back into the bag, and 1 white cube is pulled out of the bag and removed from the game. That signifies that someone has died, but we don't really know who yet. And then in addition to that, if we end up on one of these spaces that has a page icon, each of us gets 1 additional codex leaf page to add to our gospel, and we add it to either end. It's up to you where you want to put it. Okay, and at the end of the 6th round, that ends the game. Now, as we're playing the game, we're going to be putting tradition cards down that will create arrangements that are called literary devices. And there are 4 of these, so there's 4 tracks. And when you create a device, you get to put your cube onto one of these tracks. So let's go over what these 4 literary devices are. Let's say I have these cards. The first device is called Inclusio. This is a cluster of 3 cards that are all together and that all share the same eyewitness. So in this case, I've interviewed James. And I see I have 1, 2, 3 cards that have the green circle on them all together. I've interviewed James, so that's an inclusio. I get to go up 1 space on the track. The second is called emphasis. For this one, I look at these icons on the right side of the card. These are called motif symbols. And if I have 4 of the same motif symbol anywhere in my gospel, I get 1 point on the emphasis track, or I get to move up on the emphasis track. Okay, I don't have that right now. The third thing is called chiasm. This is a cluster of 4 cards that are all together, and the first and fourth share 1 motif symbol, and the second and third share a different motif symbol. Here, 24 and 32 each share a coin symbol, and 28 and 30 each share an explosion type symbol. So it's A, B, B, A. That is a chiasm, so I would go up to 1 on the chiasm track. And finally, the chronology track. I look at the numbers on my cards and count how many are in increasing order. So here I go from 24, 28, 30, 32. Those are all in increasing order, so that is 4 cards. So I would put my marker on 4 on the chronology track. So those are the 4 literary devices, and you update those tracks as you make changes to your gospel. Okay, at the end of the game, we get points from a few sources. First, all those tally marks that you recorded on your scoring sheet, you write down the number of those, and that's each one is worth 1 point. Second, each of the literary device tracks provide points in a somewhat unusual way. Let's say this is our situation. On each track, whoever is furthest along the track gets 15 points, wherever they are on the track. It doesn't matter. So here, yellow would get 15, brown would get 15, pink and blue would each get 15. But then each space behind that cube gets slightly fewer points. So it would be the first space is 15, the second is 11, the next is 8, 6, 4, 2. So in this case, yellow would get 15, blue would get 8. In this case, brown would get 15, yellow would get 11. And same thing on down the line. The third thing we have is theme scoring. Each of us has a theme that we were given during setup. Mine is the Jewish Messiah. These are blue cards, so I look at tradition cards in my gospel that match my theme. I currently have 2. Everybody counts up how many they have. Whoever has the most gets 15, and then it's the same thing. Each card fewer gets 11, 8, 6, 4, 2 points. So if I had 2 theme cards, I would get 15 points. If I had the most, someone else had 1, they would get 11 points. In addition to that, you get a 5-point bonus if at least half of your theme cards match your theme, or tradition cards match your theme, and that is the case here, so I would get that 5-point bonus. The last thing, there's a thing called a tie penalty, which is that for each cube that you share a space with, you get a 1-point penalty. So in this case, if I'm blue, I would get negative 2 points because I share 2 spaces, or I have 2 cubes that I share spaces with on the literary device tracks. That's everything. You're now ready to play. Hope you have a great time playing the game. Thanks.